You're watching Behind the Screens. Grab some popcorn, fill up a drink, and take a seat. Our feature presentation is about to begin.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you may be listening. Welcome back to another brand new episode of Behind the Screens. I'm Chris Chason, and joined as always my co-host and best friend, Mike Lakeaway. Mike, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing very well today, Chris, and I'm very happy to be back for another movie segment of Behind the Screens as we return once again to the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the second to last installment of the first phase of these sets of stories.
Yeah, so, we've covered mystical stuff, we've covered technology stuff, we've covered gamma monsters. What's left?
Ooh, I think it's about time for historical dramas. Those are always fun.
Yeah, so before we head to the future, we gotta jump back to the past, to the time of World War II, and today's movie is the perfect example of that. 2011's Captain America, The First Avenger.
Directed by Joe Johnston and released in 2011, Captain America, The First Avenger set the world relatively on fire with its first cinematic appearance of Steve Rogers in over 20 years. Let me tell you, after the last Captain America movie, not many people were as excited for this movie as they should have been. However, the film did surprise a lot of people who did end up going to see it.
That's very true, and we're going to discuss that today because, well, we didn't watch it initially on release. We watched it like years after it was released, and we kind of looked at it with fresh eyes. So
exactly.
Okay, this should be interesting.
Yep. So as per tradition, let us jump right into the plot before we discuss all the minute details one by one about this, the second to last film of the MCU's first phase.
Here we go.
Let's now jump into the plot of Captain America, The First Avenger. In the present day, scientists in the Arctic uncover an old frozen aircraft. We jump back roughly 70 years to March of 1942, where Nazi Lieutenant General Johann Schmidt and his men steal a mysterious relic called the Tesseract, which possesses untold godly powers from the town of Tonsberg in German-occupied Norway. In New York City, Steve Rogers is rejected from going into World War II military recruitment due to his various health and physical problems. Yep, and by the way, Steve Rogers is portrayed by none other than Chris Evans, of all people, who had appeared in so many other comic book movies before this.
Yeah, let's see. The Fantastic Four movies, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World,
exactly.
The Losers.
Yeah, pretty much. This is true. So this was not his first film in the realm of comic book films, but let me tell you, I was amazed at how they portrayed Steve Rogers pre-Captain America. His body is so limp and weak. I would never have guessed that was Chris Evans. Of course, didn't they just CG his head on top of another body?
Yep, that's the trick. That's the trick to it.
It was so crazy.
Yeah, but it makes you look at it and think, good Lord, is that Steve Rogers or Jack Skellington? Someone get that kid a sandwich.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. While attending an exhibition of future technologies at a World's Fair with his best friend Sergeant James Bucky Barnes, aka played by Sebastian Stan, let me tell you, this dude, very, very enjoyable. Let me tell you that.
We'll get there.
Rogers again attempts to enlist. Overhearing Rogers' conversation with Barnes about representing his country in the war, Dr. Abraham Erskine allows Rogers to enlist. He is recruited into the Strategic Scientific Reserve as part of a super soldier experiment under Erskine, Colonel Chester Phillips, and British secret agent Peggy Carter. Phillips is unconvinced by Erskine's claims that Roger is the right man for the procedure, but relents after seeing Rogers jump on top of a grenade to save his comrades, unaware that it is a test. Yeah, like the fact that Steve knowingly jumps on top of a no-win situation in order to save lives, showing that he has a good heart and an honest soul.
Let that be a sign of things to come.
I absolutely love that. How about basically the man least qualified to be a soldier is the only one that passed the test?
That is surprising.
Oh, I love that stuff so much. The night before the treatment, Erskine reveals to Rogers that Schmidt underwent the procedure prematurely and suffered permanent side effects. So basically showing that what was it, Colonel that we saw, Mr. Johann Schmidt, also went through the super soldier program, but of course...
But not good results.
Not good results, as we will soon see. Schmidt and another character named Dr. Armin Zola harnessed the energies of the Tesseract, intending to use the power to fuel Zola's inventions, mounting an offensive that will change the world. Schmidt discovers Erskine's location and sends assassins Heinz Kruger to kill him. Now, Heinz Kruger, is he another Marvel character, or is he just like an assassin?
I think he's just those one-off assassin characters that we never talk about.
Yeah, Erskine subjects Rogers to the super soldier treatment, injecting him with a super special serum and dousing him in Vita rays.
Yep, it's pronounced Vita rays.
Vita rays. Okay.
So, would you consider Vita rays artificial sunlight?
I would definitely say so.
I mean, it has to be.
Yeah. After Rogers emerges from the experiment, taller and more muscular, very muscular.
Yeah, you like. It reminds me of this Street Fighter poster where Ryu's pecs are so big they can't escape each other.
Exactly, that was exactly what I was seeing right there. Okay, so Steve comes out of the machine, much stronger and taller than ever, and undercover Kruger kills Erskine and flees with a vial of the serum. Rogers pursues and captures Kruger, but the assassin avoids interrogation by committing suicide via cyanide pills.
Because that's what happens in World War II. Spies always do not want to leak information and to kill themselves for their duty.
Yep, basically. With Erskine dead and his super soldier formula lost, U.S. Senator Brandt has Rogers tour the nation in a colorful costume as Captain America to promote war bonds while scientists study him and attempt to reverse engineer the formula.
Wait, hang on. I'm gonna stop you right there. Hold on. Let me see if I got this right. So, Skinny Man becomes super soldier, tries to stop a German assassin, but then decides is chosen to become propaganda to promote war bonds. There's something missing.
Oh, what could possibly be missing?
I don't know. The fact that that's not really fighting for the country, if you ask me.
No, but apparently back in those days, as long as you pushed out the image of being strong, the country believed that you were strong. Let me tell you that much.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Oh my goodness. So then we cut to a year later in 1943, while on tour in Italy performing for active servicemen. Rogers learns that Bucky Barnes' unit was missing in action in a battle against Schmidt's forces. Refusing to believe that his friend is dead, Rogers has Peggy Carter and engineer Howard Stark, yes, Tony Stark's father, fly with him behind enemy lines to mount a solo rescue mission. Captain America infiltrates the fortress of Schmidt's Hydra division, freeing Barnes and the other prisoners. As Rogers confronts Schmidt, who removes a mask, which is basically showing that his face isn't actually his real face.
No, because it's revealed that Johann Schmidt is fan-loved Marvel villain, the Red Skull.
Which I'm thinking is like, oh my god.
Yeah, and it makes you think, man, this must have hurt Hugo Weaving's face when doing this.
Yes, I completely forgot to mention Schmidt, aka the Red Skull, is played by superb actor Hugo Weaving.
So this is what happens when Agent Smith goes nuts.
Yeah, literally. He's basically one of the minor antagonists from the Matrix trilogy. Which I think is like, this dude is so cool and so over the top. I absolutely love it. Always playing every single scene exactly as it should.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Basically takes off his fake face to reveal a red, skull-like visage that earns him the name the Red Skull. Schmidt escapes and Captain America returns to base with the freed soldiers. Barnes, so basically, with everybody free, Captain America recruits Bucky, Dum Dum Dugan, Gabe Jones, Jim Morita, James Montgomery Falsworth, and Jacques Dernier to attack other known Hydra bases. Basically, the Red Skull is the leader of a subdivision of the Nazis called Hydra.
Yeah, now we want to put this out there clearly. Hydra is more than just that. Like, and usually, look, in the context of this movie, it's basically the science division. It's like the science division of the whole Nazi Third Reich Empire thing.
Yes.
But in modern times, it's basically neo-Nazis.
Yes.
We can't hide that.
We simply cannot.
And in further expanded material, Hydra is actually a cult that did not start with the Nazis. It started like thousands of years ago, before World War II and everything like that.
Exactly. So its roots and or tentacles run deeper than anything that World War II ever started or ended. So let me tell you that, folks. We'll be talking about Hydra a lot more as these movies go on.
But of course, with the group that Cap and Bucky have assembled, they dubbed themselves the Howling Commandos.
Indeed. Tony Stark's dad outfits Captain America with advanced equipment, most notably a circular shield made out of a metal called vibranium, a nearly unbreakable item. I'm thinking that shield is so dope. I absolutely love it.
When you think of popular comic book or superhero weapons, Captain America's shield is one of the first three to come to mind.
Exactly. Whoever fears his mighty shield shall yield. I absolutely love
that. Yeah, unless other things, but that's a whole other topic.
Yep. Captain America and his team managed to sabotage various Hydra operations, while of course he and Peggy Carter fall in love. Because of course that's how all these stories work.
Yeah.
In the final months of the war in 1945, the team assaults a train carrying Arnim Zola. Captain America and Jones. I'm trying to think, who was Jones for this? Rogers and Jones succeed in capturing Zola, but Bucky falls from the train to his apparent death. So basically, when they do manage to apprehend Arnim Zola, Bucky is seemingly cast from the train and falls into an abyss, supposedly to his doom. I'll give you a little secret, my friends. It's not the end for him. And of course, we will eventually see that one day.
Maybe just yeah.
Okay, so basically, using information taken from Zola, the final Hydra stronghold is located, and Captain America leads an assault to stop Schmidt from using weapons of mass destruction on major American cities. Rogers climbs aboard the Red Skull's aircraft as it takes off. During the subsequent fight, the Tesseract's container is damaged. The Red Skull physically touches the Tesseract in order to save it, which of course opens up a wormhole in space which sucks him in beyond the stars. So it's like, what the hell? It's like, okay, he's gone, I guess.
So that makes the whole stopping weapon of mass destruction thing easier, right?
Yeah, yes. The Tesseract burns through the plane and is lost in the ocean below. Seeing no way to land the plane without risking detonating the massive destroying weapons on board, Captain America raiders Peggy Carter and says goodbye to her before crashing into the Arctic. Which, of course, I'll admit, that was so sad.
Yeah, it's tragic.
I know that the romance subplot is cheesy cornball nonsense, but I have to admit, it's my cheesy cornball nonsense.
Me too.
And I have to say, it's I love their last lines together so much.
Yeah.
Save me a dance when I come home, doll.
Oh
no!
My God.
Don't do this to me, man. I spent this last 2 hours getting to know you, and this is what happens? Oh my goodness.
God.
Anyway, Howard Stark later recovers the Tesseract from the ocean floor, but is unable to find Captain America or the airship, presuming him dead. However, we cut to one of the more interesting endings of one of these films, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
Captain America wakes up in a 1940s-style hospital room hearing a radio broadcast of a baseball game that he attended in 1941, immediately realizing that something is wrong. He grows suspicious, flees outside, and finds himself in present-day Times Square in 2011. Which I'm thinking is that is really crazy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you that much. And of course, who dares to show up in Times Square but Nick Fury, who informs him that he's been asleep for 70 years. Oh my God.
And it's basically Captain America's number one feat, able to survive in a block of ice for a few decades and not be dead.
Indeed. The film does possess a post-credit scene, which shows Nick Fury approaching Captain America and proposing a mission with worldwide ramifications. Something dangerous is coming, and they need to be ready sooner rather than later.
Well, that's going to be the next movie.
That's going to be the next movie, my friends, and that was Captain America: The First Avenger. It's a really good wartime drama.
It is if you're a fan of any movie like tells the story of war, whether it be either World War, Civil War, Revolutionary War. This is one of the better ones. Like this, along with other World War II movies like Dunkirk and Saving Private Ryan, are like this is one of the good ones.
Yep, of course, yes, I did need to be reminding myself that one of the minor characters was named Jones. I was wondering, who is that dude? Yeah, who they named Jones over there? So yes, now I'm a lot less confused. Let's see how well this film did, shall we? The film was made on a very, very high budget for the MCU at the time.
Most expensive so far?
Well, yes, I'd probably say so, right up there anyway.
Boy.
Let me see if I can average things out really quickly. This film was made on roughly about $179 million budget.
Wow.
Which is basically the amount of technology it took to replicate early 40s in New York City, and not just that, in all the parts of the world, is really spectacular how spot on they were.
Yeah,
even 10 years ago.
It tells you that I thought Marvel did their homework.
Exactly. The film was made on a $179 million budget, but of course only made $371 million back at the box office.
So about double?
Which I'd say, basically they doubled their money on this movie.
That's not bad.
Which of course is not a bad investment. I probably could see that maybe they would have wanted a tiny bit more, but then again, you can't always get what you want.
Very sure.
The film began as a concept way back in 1997 and was scheduled to be released. However, a lawsuit disrupted the project and was not settled until 2003. In 2005, Marvel Studios received a loan and planned to finance and release the movie through Paramount, which of course they ended up doing 6 years later. Directors Jon Favreau was initially interested in directing the project before Joe Johnston came forward in 2008. Now, this is probably one of Joe Johnston's better movies, in my opinion.
Yeah, what other movies has he directed?
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Okay, so that's not bad.
Jumanji.
The original one with Robin Williams?
Yeah.
Okay, alright, that's good.
Jurassic Park 3.
No.
He also directed The Rocketeer, which a lot of Disney fans love, and I don't know why.
It's a cult classic. I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard it's alright. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. I heard it's like a good underrated film for a lot of 90s kids out there. I think that's why.
Yep. The film received immense praise, especially for Chris Evans' performance as Steve Rogers.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you, it has got to be his signature role that I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, me too.
Even across all the other stuff I've seen, and trust me, folks, I've seen him in many, many things.
Both good and bad?
Yes. I'd definitely say that nothing has topped his filmography record than Mr. Steve Rogers himself. Not to mention the film's depiction of the 1940s time period, and of course, Joe Johnston's directing also got the thumbs up from a majority of fans.
That's true.
Let's take a look at a handful of the characters, shall we? And of course, we have to begin with Chris Evans as Steve Rogers.
I'm going to make this very clear from here on out. Captain America is not only my favorite Avenger, but he is my favorite Marvel character, no question about it. I love him because mainly of like his morality and where he stands. Like if he sees a situation pointed south, he'll just jump in and fix it. I'm the same, so I'm looking at a heroic version of myself here. And the way he wanted to fight for his country, despite the odds in his frame and his body framing, he wanted to do what was right.
Exactly. No matter, he didn't care what anybody said. He would do the right thing regardless of the situation. Even if all hope seemed lost, he would do whatever humanly possible to basically help those he cared about.
Exactly.
And that's what I loved about it. Captain America is definitely one of my favorite characters, too, across all of the Marvel plethora of characters. Even though I do adore characters like Tony Stark and all those other characters, I simply cannot express my love for Captain America long enough. And of course, let's take a look at how Chris Evans handled this. As of course we mentioned previously, Chris Evans had been in multiple comic book movies before this, most notably the early 2000s Fantastic Four films, which of course we will cover on this show at some point.
Yeah, but to give you our thoughts as of now, they're okay.
They're fine, but they're definitely not great.
They're like, how should I put it, like, Just about average?
It was just about average.
We'll go into more detail when we get to them, but anyway.
Basically said that he declined the part of Captain America 3 separate times before finally caving in and signed on to be in 6 movies with him. Which I'm thinking, like, that is actually great. Like, they kept pestering him over and over again until he finally said yes, and it made history right there.
Yeah.
Explaining that, at the time, I remember telling a buddy of mine, if the movie bombs, I'm screwed. If the movie hits, I'm screwed. I was just scared.
Screwed?
I realized my whole decision-making process was fear-based, and you never want to make a decision out of fear. I can't believe I was almost too chicken to play Captain America. And that's basically, I can only assume he meant, because since his career was in a very fragile place, because yes, he was appearing in movies, but none of them were ever really getting anywhere.
No, the only standout before his MCU career, the only film I remember him standing that he was a good part in was Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and that movie's amazing.
It is like a really good, even though many fans of the comic book say that if you love the comics, you shouldn't jump into the movie because it has so many differences to it.
So what?
Basically, he was saying that if the movie bombed, his career as a legitimate actor would be over.
Yeah, but we can say, I think a lot of people said this movie kind of saved his career.
Exactly. It skyrocketed him to stardom.
Yeah, because now he's in a bunch of other movies. Like, he was in this one movie with a little girl that's very gifted.
Exactly. He was in a Knives Out.
Yeah, Knives Out is an amazing movie. We'll get to that. And of course, there are times where he cameoed in a few things, but that's a whole other topic.
Yep. He ultimately agreed to the role, saying, I think Marvel is doing a lot of good things right now, and it's a fun character. I think the story of Steve Rogers is great. He's a great guy. Even if it were just a script about anybody, I would probably want to do it. So it wasn't necessarily about the comic itself. Basically, when he was talking about the character's abilities, he said that he would crush at the Olympics. Any Olympic sport, he's going to dominate. He can jump higher, run faster, lift stronger, but he can still be injured, of course. He could roll an ankle and be out for the season. He's not perfect. He's not untouchable. So a lot of the effects, if I'm going to punch someone, they're not going to put them on a cable and fly them back 50 feet. But he's going to go down, probably not getting back up, which I think humanizes it. It makes it something that, again, I think that everyone can relate to a little bit more, which I really like. And of course, I do really like that, showing that, yes, Captain America is a superhero. He has super strength, super agility. The man is basically an Olympian in the modern day, but he's not invincible.
No, because he's prone to failure and possibly considered dead on occasion, but that's a whole other thing. But
indeed,
yeah.
Yes.
Quick science fact here. So it turns out I know the limits of Captain America's strength and agility. His maximum strength, he can bench press 1,100 pounds.
Oh,
and he can run a mile in 73 seconds. And for those not in the know, that's a minute and 13 seconds. That makes him nearly twice as strong and nearly 3 times as fast as some of the most physically fit Olympians in the world.
Really?
Yeah, he is that fast and that strong. But to be fair, though, he is still human. He'll still get hurt from gunshots, knives, that whole thing. But the fact that he has these sheer abilities while trying to make himself look human, that's honestly how you define a Marvel hero. Like, there's a difference between Marvel and DC. DC have humans trying to be gods. Marvel has gods trying to be humans.
Exactly.
It makes Marvel seem better than DC by comparison in terms of that, but they have their own pros and cons, but that's a whole other thing.
Indeed. I would certainly say that Chris Evans' portrayal of Captain America in this first endeavor is already at the top, and it will only continue to skyrocket, my friends.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, believe it or not, Tommy Lee Jones is in this movie as one of the main characters. I'm thinking to myself, this dude went back to comic book movies after Batman Forever?
Yeah, because if you remember, in Batman Forever, he played Two-Face, and yeah, let's just say about that role, the better.
Yeah.
Because, problems with Jim Carrey and all that. But to be fair, though, despite that, Tommy Lee Jones has a good career under his belt. He's got Men in Black under his belt, so that's at least good.
Definitely. He plays a colonel in the U.S. Army and a member of the Strategic Scientific Reserve who basically heads the project to create the super soldiers. The character was updated from the comics where Phillips was the one to recruit Captain America instead of whoever did it in this movie. Basically, Tommy Lee Jones described his character as the one you've seen in 1,000 movies, the gruff, skeptical officer overseeing a team of talented, slightly sarcastic, especially talented soldiers. So basically, he was even admitting that his character was very cliched, but that's the problem. Like, Well, no, it's not. It's not really a problem.
I wouldn't call it a problem either. It's been done to death, but
The character has been done to death, but he played it the best he could.
yeah, the way he did it was a unique way to play it, if I'm being honest.
They were knowledgeable that what they were doing was not the very least original, but they still ran with it as best they could, because, let's face it, Captain America was a very old character, and in order to portray the character in what they were forming at the time, the foundation of what would later become a big media franchise, sometimes you have to start from the ground so you can work to make new stories later.
Oh yeah, and that and the rest is history with that one.
Yep.
But yeah, and the way Tommy Lee Jones plays Chester Phillips, I don't know why. I've always seen Tommy Lee Jones as a guy who could play a military role, no problem.
Oh, definitely.
If he starred in another wartime movie, I'd be down for that.
Absolutely. So he was definitely fun enough, even though he wasn't the most original character. I still appreciate that actors like this, who I love to see in many other movies, like I do believe he was in No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, that movie was a classic.
So I would definitely say watch Tommy Lee Jones movies if you loved him in this. So
yeah,
I definitely give him the upper thumbs.
Yeah,
up
we'll just slide Batman Forever under the rug.
Yeah, for now. Watch it. And of course, Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull, which I'm thinking is like, I love Hugo Weaving so damn much in a lot of things
I know he was Agent Smith in the Matrix movies, but I know he played a character in the Hobbit movies.
Yes, he did. He was a character in all 6 of the movies.
Right, 6 of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yep, he was Agent Smith in the first 3 Matrixes. He was the title character in V for Vendetta.
Right, V for Vendetta is like an amazing movie and another good comic adaptation from a comic written by Alan Moore.
Yep, and of course a bunch of other movies for both teens and children alike, including Babe, both of the Happy Feets, and of course he played Megatron in the Michael Bay Transformers movies.
He was Megatron?
Yeah, so it's like, bro, his talents were wasted in those movies.
We'll save the Transformers movies for another day.
But of course, to put it simply, the Red Skull is the head of the Advanced Weaponry Division and the commander of the terrorist organization Hydra, whose own plan for world domination involves harnessing the power of the Tesseract and many other Norse mythological items.
Yeah, because as far as I know, according to history, Nazis and people under the Third Reich, under Hitler's regime during World War II, they praised and were big fans of Norse mythology and embraced it in order to fight back against the Allies.
Exactly. They took on the appearance of modern Norse gods, as it were, adapting their mythology, their symbols, everything, so that they could appear as mighty and strong as they were. Let me tell you that much.
Yeah, and of course, the fun thing about the Red Skull is, in the comics, Hitler himself chose him to lead Hydra.
Yeah, but he was a personal pick of Hitler. And of course, that was probably a big honor for a German citizen like Johann Schmidt.
Yeah, even though now Red Skull is one of the most threatening villains in Marvel Comics, his portrayal in the movie, however,
is less than anything.
I mean, it's not terrible.
No,
but it could have been way better.
Yeah, it was going really good, and then it tripped in the third act a bit. It was going so strong, and then you had to fall just a few feet from the finish line.
Yeah, I think it's because the Tesseract pulled him away from there.
Yeah, basically. Hugo Weaving stated that he patterned the Red Skull's accent on many German actors and filmmakers he had met previously, which I'm thinking that's actually
good inspiration.
Cool. Yep. About the character, he once remarked, "I think that the major difference between Skull and the Cap, they both had the serum, and the serum seems to augment certain qualities that each of them have. Cap is much more in tune with other people, I think. Schmidt is in tune with himself and his own ego," which I'm thinking, that seems pretty obvious. So I suppose it augments that. From his point of view, they're quite opposite. So it basically shows that the super soldier serum reacts to people differently. Sometimes it'll enhance your best traits, and in the case of the Red Skull, it will enhance your worst traits.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a whole dominant versus recessive genes kind of thing, which admittedly kind of reminds me of the video game Metal Gear Solid with Solid and Liquid Snake. Solid Snake got all the dominant stuff, while Liquid Snake got the recessive stuff. That's a whole other process.
Yep. Basically, though, I just hate the fact he shot into space at the end of the movie.
Because you feel like there would be more potential for Red Skull in future movies if you didn't do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I feel like the both of them should have been launched into the ocean and have them both be recovered at both times.
Yeah, because in the comics, like Cap's skull was in suspended animation just like Cap and woke up in the modern day just like him, so...
Exactly. That would have been so much better.
Yeah, but given the fact of how the world responds to terrorism today, yikes.
I know.
But to be fair, though, he would do what he would do, like spread fear and all that.
Exactly. He would have been doing all these great adventures, but unfortunately, this is the last time that we'll be seeing the Red Skull for many, many, many stories, my friends.
Yeah.
However, he will be back one day.
Come on, like that's going to happen.
So after saying all that, I would say that Hugo Weaving definitely did an upper thumb. That's all basically.
Yeah, not a thumbs up.
Not a thumb.
I mean, but to be fair though, do you think the villains in the MCU are slowly getting better?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because Loki and Red Skull are an improvement over Ironmonger
and Abomination,
and especially Hammer and Whiplash.
Definitely.
Jeez.
So yes, the villains are getting better. They would not become nearly perfected until the next film.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll definitely get there. Next on to Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter.
She is just perfect for this.
I know! It's crazy!
Like, she plays Peggy Carter with gusto. That's the best word I want to put it.
Exactly. She is so freaking good in this, and I absolutely love these kinds of characters in these kinds of movies.
She was like Marvel's British Wonder Woman in a way, because she was a woman at war.
Exactly. That's what I loved about her. Like, always sticking to her guns and her principles, never ever giving up no matter what happens. It's probably why Steve admired and loved her so much. How strong she was, especially when given women's roles during this time that they were only meant to sew clothes and dance for the soldiers, how she wanted to be a soldier, but she was always laughed at by the soldiers and the scientists, basically, considering her lesser of a mind to help win the war simply because of her gender. And
yeah, but thankfully nowadays with Marvel's What If animated series, where it's a what if she took the super soldier serum instead of Steve, she proves that she's very capable, and not to mention the fact she also had her own series, Agent Carter, that ran on ABC for a little while.
Yeah, so I do consider her a big part of the Marvel Universe, even if it is behind the scenes most of the time, but I still consider her work very, very good
Absolutely. And Haley Atwell is just one of the best female actresses of the modern day. If you ask me, she's great.
Yep. She once talked about preparing for the role, saying that she trained at the moment 6 days a week to make her a bit more military and make it convincing that she could kick butt. About the character, she said that she likened it to that famous Ginger Rogers quote, "She can do everything Captain America can do, but backwards and in high heels."
Huh?
I love that.
I don't understand. That doesn't sound like it makes any sense.
Basically, it says that women can do everything men can do, but better, because their lives are infinitely harder than ours.
That is sadly true. I can't deny that.
Exactly. They have to wear heels while doing this. We've never worn heels, but I know they're a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, the closest we've got is high tops, but that's a whole other thing.
Yep, she is an English soldier through and through. But although she always looks fabulous. Like, I love that. Like, she's in a time of war. She always looks good, no matter
what. Exactly.
She might stand there with a machine gun shooting Nazis, but she's obviously gone to the loo beforehand and applied a bit of lipstick. I'm thinking, yes, that's so true. Yes. I just love how she's talking, like, she is not sugarcoat. She's like, yeah, I will shoot the Nazis, but I have to put makeup on first.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. She doesn't need to be rescued. That's so exciting for me. Her strength. I think she's quite stubborn, a slightly frustrated woman who struggles with being a woman in that time. But more importantly, she's a modern woman, and she sees something in Captain America that she relates to, and they become kindred spirits. He treats her very differently to how she's been treated by lots of men in this kind of dominant world she lives in, so she's very much a fighter. So I'm thinking, yeah, that's actually very, very nice, I think. That she and Chris Evans have such good chemistry together, always talking and laughing jokes. I really could tell that they were developing a very nice relationship over time. And of of course, throughout this movie, the ultimate separation of them by 7 decades is all the more tragic. The thing is, I love that bit of tragedy in the character, and that's what made me connect to Captain America most of all. Something that I couldn't really connect to with him previously. I didn't see any tragedy in his character. I just saw him as basically a use for American propaganda to sell things. But now I could. But he really, upon seeing many other things, the kind of character that says, okay, so even the most dumb of characters can have the tragic backstories that makes them relatable to anybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
Of that. So yes, I will give Haley Atwell the ultimate thumbs up.
Oh yeah.
All right, now let us go on to one of my favorite actors of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, first introduced in this movie with much more stuff down the line, folks. I promise, in many different forms. Sebastian Stan as Bucky Buchanan Barnes.
Oh yeah, Bucky is an interesting character to say the least.
I love what they did with him in this movie, because let me tell you, I know the whole story that Bucky was basically ripping off Robin as the teen sidekick to Captain America, making him, I'm pretty sure, as the same age as Steve, or at least a few years older. Right?
Yeah, around the same age.
Yeah, basically they're the same age, but he towers over Steve most of the time as the ultimate soldier type, the one that all the girls flock to, the one who's going to come home a war hero, only to be captured as a prisoner of war, stuff like that, and Steve has to save him. I think he stepped up to do that.
And
yes,
even though, despite Bucky falling off the train to his death, he still, when he was on screen, he was one of the best parts.
Believe it or not, though, even though it's kind of like that thing that a lot of superhero movies did in the 2010s. Whenever a character seemed to die, people would always harken back to comments made by the producers and director. Bucky may have fallen off the train while trying to capture Armin Zola, but it was made very especially clear that Sebastian Stan had signed on to be in 5 or 6 Marvel movies. So basically, even though he was supposedly dead, where was he going to show up next? And of course, that's something that we'll cover one day.
And if you know your Captain America, you'll know.
Sebastian Stan said that he didn't know a single thing about Captain America or any Marvel comics before coming onto this movie. But of course, he watched a lot of documentaries and World War II movies to prep for the role, calling specifically on Band of Brothers. He said that Steve Rogers and Bucky are both orphans and kind of like brothers. They kind of grow up together and look after each other. It's a very human, relatable thing. I also wanted to look out for how their relationship changes once Steve Rogers becomes Captain America. There's always a competition, and they're always one-upping each other. I paid close attention to how Bucky is affected by Steve's change, and suddenly Steve being in charge of his life. It's I love that relationship darn much. Their scenes really did paint me immediately that they were good friends. Mm-hmm. And it only made it more tragic when Steve thought that he lost his brother, his only family after he'd lost everything else.
Yeah.
And of course, let me tell you, Sebastian Stan and Steve and Chris Evans fight excellently in this movie. The fight scenes are pretty dang good.
Yeah, because while it's a war movie, you expect a lot of action and crazy fights with the gunfights.
Especially my favorite, the one where Steve takes the door of a car, right, and uses it as a shield.
That was funny.
That was so cool. It's I love stuff like that, with each of the characters having unique fighting moments. And I'm just thinking, it really does shows this is a war, and they're fighting it like it's a war. And of course, even though we didn't get to see too much of Sebastian Stan in this movie, it was all to set up for future things that would end up happening. We won't talk very much about it going forward, but we will pick it up eventually again. So even though Sebastian Stan did not play Bucky Barnes for very long, I'll give him the thumbs up.
Absolutely.
Because for a seed performance that will no doubt grow into a mighty oak.
Oh yeah.
Next, of course, a surprise actor I did not expect to see in these movies, but of course, then again, as time goes on, more and more actors appeared in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, some that I never thought would ever be in comic book movies, until I saw other things. Dominic Cooper as Howard Stark.
Who would have thought?
Now I'm thinking, I have seen Dominic Cooper in many other things before, most notably the AMC series Preacher, based on the graphic novel from the Dark Horse comics.
Oh yeah.
Now I would say my father loved that series when it was on, and was very saddened to see it end after only 4 years, because he thought Dominic Cooper was an excellent lead. And of course, this movie did of course prove that right.
Yeah, the way he portrayed a younger Howard Stark, it's basically, I'm looking at I'm looking at a 1940s Tony right here.
It really do, because he tries to emulate Robert Downey's mannerisms so goddamn well.
Yeah, because you got him flirting with women. You got him showing off his tech genius and prowess for the technology at the time, and him being a scientist. So it fits.
It basically does fit, and it perfectly shows a parallel of stuff that would happen with Steve in the future movies when, of course, he would encounter other Marvel heroes, most notably, possibly, Tony Stark.
Yep.
But of course, Cooper said about his role that it's an opportunity where you can see his future, because I know the guy who becomes my son, and I see myself as an older version from the footage in Iron Man 2, which is great for an actor to have those tools. All I know of him is that he's a fantastic engineer and inventor and a very slick Howard Hughes type that's into aviation and especially women.
Which makes sense considering Dominic Cooper's young Howard Stark looks like Howard Hughes a little bit.
It really do, let me tell you that much. My grandmother would tell me stories about the insane genius of Howard Hughes, building the biggest plane on the face of the earth.
With a wingspan of 319 feet, 11 inches.
Exactly. And
still holds the record for being the largest plane ever built.
I'll tell you, he was crazy, but god dang was he a genius.
Yeah.
So basically, Dominic Cooper's role in this movie is very much even though he plays about as much role in it as Peggy Carter does, he still helps from the sidelines. It's sort of like, I'm not going to say third or fourth wheel, because he does have more screen time than Bucky does.
I'd say he's basically Q to Cap's James Bond.
Yes, very much so.
I supplied him with weapons, gave him the shield, and they pretty much made him the bulky guy we know him.
Exactly, and basically taking the role of Steve's brother-in-arms once it's possibly shown that Bucky dies from his point of view.
Yeah.
So I'd definitely say that even though Dominic Cooper only appeared, was it like once or twice?
Well, I mean, he did reprise the role as Howard Stark for the Agent Carter show.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
what I thought about it.
Movie-wise, only appearance.
So basically, yes, for like his time as a young Howard Stark, he definitely was a fun time to see.
Yeah, and it was a standout.
Yes, I would definitely say so that he's a knockout for comic book movies. Hopefully I get to see him in another one very soon.
Here's hoping.
So I would definitely give Dominic Cooper the thumbs up right there. All right, now let's go on to a few of the minor characters before we do all the cameo brushing. Of course, we have Dum Dum Dugan. That's such a World War II name, I swear to God.
Yes, it is.
Played by Neil McDonough, I believe. Oh, I do know this dude. He was Damien Dark in the Arrowverse. That's crazy.
Who's Damien Dark?
Basically, I think it was a villain in Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, and The Flash.
Oh, was that guy?
I do know this dude. Yeah, I saw him in Minority Report. So he was actually in Band of Brothers, believe it or not. So this was not the first World War II thing he was ever a part of.
Okay, so he's used to this area.
Was he? No, okay, so he was in Dark Man. Oh, I know him. He was in Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City that we saw last year.
Oh my god, wait, who did he play?
He was Birkin.
He was wearing Birkin?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That dude was in this movie.
Wow.
Oh my god, so yeah, I've seen him in a lot of places, and let me tell you, this was actually, even though it was a much more smaller role than what he's actually used to, I'm not really known for Mr. Neal here to be a show running man, but of course he does really was a character actor. You give him a small role to play, and he'll run with it.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you that much. Basically, Neil wore the character's signature bowler hat and said that he grew Dugan's trademark mustache. Basically saying that he wanted to look as close to the comic counterpart of Dum Dum as he possibly could.
Mission accomplished.
About his role in the film, he remarked, "Oh, I'm going to see a lot of action. I'm the go-to guy, so I'm very happy with that." Basically saying, happy to work alongside other great actors to tell more World War II stories, and I think now that I can see his face, picture it in my mind, he did a pretty good job.
Absolutely.
So I'll definitely let Neil get the thumbs up as well. Next up is Gabe Jones, aka played by Derek Luke. Now I'm thinking to myself, I don't really remember this dude very much. Supposedly he was in 13 Reasons Why. But
that show.
Why that? Okay, I'm just trying to think. Was there anything else that I may have seen him in? But I can't really imagine anything else I've seen him in besides this movie. Yeah, no, not
Probably
really.
not much.
Basically said that he's like another member of Rogers' Howling Commandos. Derek Luke said that he was cast without a script or much of a description of the character. As to why he took the part, he said, "I just believe that Marvel was doing some really great work, great messages in films, the good versus evil, and I just like that. How can I not be down with it?" And it's like, yeah, so basically a very much another character actor playing a somewhat interesting member of the Howling Commandos, who I must admit I don't remember very much about, but if I do see the movie again, I'm pretty sure I can point him out and enjoy the ride once more.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely give him like the middle thumb, just not because he put in a bad performance, it's just that he was somewhat forgettable.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And another one that I was definitely interested about because I love his actors so much. Abraham Erskine, Stanley Tucci.
Yeah, Stanley Tucci played him really well, if I'm being honest.
Because I love Stanley Tucci so goddamn much in a lot of the stuff I've ever seen him in. I can name so many of his movies. The Devil Wears Prada, Easy A, The Beauty and the Beast remake.
Who are you playing that?
I'm trying to remember because I know it's somebody decently, but I can't remember right now. Because I'm thinking it's probably one of the little like the little people in the. Oh, he was Cadenza, basically described as a neurotic maestro.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Yeah, that dude right there. Okay, so I love Stanley Tucci in this. Basically, he plays the scientist who created the super soldier serum. Tucci said that what drew him to the role was the opportunity to do a German accent, which is something he said he always wanted to do in a film, but had never done it up until that point. Basically, like, I love that. The only reason he joined was so he could do a German voice.
Huh, that's an interesting reason to sign on to a movie.
And of course, mind you, as we said in the recap portion of this movie review, he is killed by a Nazi spy very early on in the movie. So of course, while his character didn't live very long, he was a very enjoyable character nonetheless, as I do enjoy him in a lot of his other movies. Basically giving Steve the talk of his life, telling him that becoming Captain America will be the greatest honor of any American ever. And Lord knows was he right. It would not be the greatest honor of just Earth, but eventually, possibly, the entire universe.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I definitely give Stanley Tucci the thumbs up. I'm hoping we get to talk about him and a lot more of his other movies one day very soon.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we got the speed time of the rundown cameos, which, of course, includes, once again, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury.
And given the fact he's setting up Captain America, of all people, there's good things to come.
Yeah, basically said how we've basically seen him in. Did we see him in The Incredible Hulk? I don't think so.
No, we did not. But there is a small scene in Iron Man 2 where there's footage of the Incredible Hulk scene at Culver University playing in the background.
Yep. So basically, he was monitoring Hulk. He was there for Thor, and now he's here for this to pick up Steve Rogers. Mm-hmm. So it shows that only when it comes to the next big installment, if you guys are new to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you're probably going to want to avoid all your computer stuff to look up that, because you'll want to be surprised when it comes to what the heck was Nick Fury gathering all these heroes for anyway.
Yeah.
So basically, let's talk about another cameo right here, including Toby Jones as Armin Zola.
The way he played Arnim Zola, if I'm being honest, looks-wise, he kind of looks like that German guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes, he does. He looks exactly like Major Todt. Let me tell you that much. Basically, putting him right there. Well, I am very much amazed that a very British actor can play such a cold-hearted German scientist.
Yeah, because the way he portrayed Zola was very accurate to his human form. For those that don't know, in the modern day, Arnim Zola downloaded his brain into a computer and a robot body to make himself live in the modern day.
So that I could live forever.
Well, I guess that's one way to do immortality.
God, it's such a dumb idea, but I absolutely love it. Like, I absolutely love how silly it is to put a guy's brain inside of a robot. Let me see what other movies I've got. Okay, so he was in the 1998 showing of Les Mis, Ever After, Finding Neverland, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Frost Nixon, W, the movie about the George W. Bush administration.
Oh, that's the one with Josh Brolin playing George W. Bush, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that was fun.
But he was in? Oh yeah, he was definitely in that one. The Adventures of Tintin.
Oh yeah, I remember that movie.
He was Owl in the Christopher Robin live-action remake.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He was in the Hunger Games movies, he was in all these kinds of other things, but he was also in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. I've seen this dude in so many things.
Yeah, he's another really amazing actor. Like again, the way he played Zola. He's a real cold, calculating scientist right here.
I know, he played it off so gosh darn well. But this movie didn't show me everything that I would eventually like about Arnim Zola. Like, I do like him very much as like one of Captain America's foes and a Hydra-affiliated villain, but it would be a later story in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that would really get me to love his character very much so. So I'd definitely say, good job, Mr. Toby Jones, right there.
Yeah.
Apparently, what's this? Been approached to play the part. So yes, apparently Jeff Goldblum was supposed to be in this movie.
What?
Believe it or not, he was originally cast to play a candidate for the Super Soldier Serum because of his very lean physique. And of course, I think that would have been so bad.
That would have been weird.
Yeah, basically, can you imagine Jeff Goldblum being in this movie?
No,
I honestly can't. Nope. But then, of course. Eventually, we all know that he would later be cast in a future MCU film, but of course we'll get to that eventually. Let's think about another one. So, Laura Haddock, who would later go on to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe film based on the characters of the Guardians of the Galaxy, actually appears in this movie, which I'm thinking it's actually funny because supposedly this is the grandmother of another Marvel hero, Star-Lord. So I do believe,
really?
I do believe that Peter Quill's grandmother is in this movie. I do believe that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I would definitely believe that if somebody were to tell me, like, even though I know that the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy film said that it was basically a joke and they just rehired the same actress for 2 different movies.
Oh, yeah. It's like with some movies, like they have different characters, but they have actors portray them differently. Like I know one of the actors in Captain Marvel comes back for another movie, but that's a different character, but I don't know which one.
Gemma Chan.
Right. She played a Kree soldier in Captain Marvel and then played Cersei in Eternals, which is
basically
funny.
So, and of course, we can't forget the Stan the Man Lee cameo as one of the American generals during the training sequence.
This cameo was actually kind of funny. Like, he sees the guy he thinks is Captain America, and he looks at the other guy, I thought he'd be taller.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about it. Like, I know that this is, we of course mentioned that this is not Marvel's first attempt to make a Captain America movie.
No.
The first one was really bad.
Yeah, this movie came out in 1995, and...
1990, actually.
Oh, yeah. You had... The way Cap's costume looked is
oh goodness.
That, not to mention the fact there's a scene where he frickin' steals a car.
Yeah, he basically steals a guy's car to go see Peggy.
That's just so stupid.
I know. Eventually we will cover that movie one of these days, but it's going to be a long time away, my friends.
God.
So I basically said, to have Stan Lee cameo in this movie and see possibly one of the greatest creations of him and Jack Kirby's work in comics way back during the days of the 40s when they were first starting out, I can honestly say he must have been so overjoyed to see Steve Rogers like that with the original shield and everything.
Yeah, because the shield was not circular. Originally the shield was like... kind of basically look like a giant police badge.
Yeah, basically like an actual police badge or like a shield would normally look back in those days. With
exactly.
With all the sharp edges and everything. Personally, I do like circular shields.
Me too. Honestly, and they're more effective.
Yep, and of course now we have to undergo the best part of my favorite part anyway, the accolades shout out.
I wouldn't be surprised if it actually won a couple.
Yep, this film was nominated for dozens of awards. It was nominated for 2 Teen Choice Awards, both Chris Evans and the movie itself. Nominated for a bunch of Scream Awards, believe it or not. Basically, Haley Atwood was nominated, Chris Evans was nominated, Hugo Weaving was nominated, but of course, Chris Evans was the only one to win a Scream Award as Captain America for Best Superhero in a horror, sci-fi, or fantasy movie.
There you go.
Which of course is very nice. Even frickin' Tommy Lee Jones was nominated for a Scream Award, and of course, Alan Silvestri won a Film Music Award at the BMI Film and TV Awards.
Yeah, because he scored the movie, and it's gorgeous to listen to.
I'll definitely tell you this guy's right here. Alan Silvestri, aside from John Williams, is definitely one of my favorite composers in films ever. This guy composes legendary films.
Yeah, he composed the Avengers movies.
Yep.
He also composed the Back to the Future trilogy.
Yep.
And what else?
Predator, Forrest Gump, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Polar Express.
There you go.
All these different films that I'm hoping we'll cover someday. Let's just say that next to John Williams, he's definitely one of the platinum best.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Basically, Chris Evans was nominated for a People's Choice Award. The film won a Visual Effects Society Award for outstanding composting in a film. Feature film, basically.
All right.
The film was nominated for an Empire Award. Captain America was nominated for a Best Hero at the MTV Movie Awards. And of course, the film was nominated for several Saturn Awards across all of its actors and crew, but sadly didn't win any.
Oof.
So yes, of course, out of the dozens of awards that this film was nominated for, it only won 3. But
Not bad.
But of course, still, the fact that it was nominated for that much showed that, yes, superhero films were starting to gain traction once more, helped only by the fact of all the great films to come out of the early 2000s, and now this film, and all the other superhero films to come out of the 2010s that we'll be covering on this show would only follow.
Yep.
So basically, now that we've gone over the plot, the characters, the accolades, the successes and failures of this movie, it's about time that we summarize our claims and start to wrap things up. Chris, how do you feel about Captain America: The First Avenger?
Honestly, it's a decent movie. Honestly, it's one of the better movies out of Phase 1. And it's just it's not only a wartime film, but it's like a science fiction wartime film. You of course you got all the wartime stuff. You got World War II. You got the Allies versus Nazis. But you also have the scientific element with the whole Tesseract weapons and how we're dealing with extra dimensional power, drugs that turn people into super soldiers, and a shield that, let's say, defies the laws of physics entirely. Because that shield, Captain America throws that shield, and he uses his super soldier mind to calculate and strategize however the shield bounces off of things, so that it always ends up back in his hand, no matter how many targets it hits.
Exactly.
It's like one of the most quintessential weapons to have. And him as a character, he's a soldier. He knows what he's doing. He's fighting for his country and defending his freedoms.
Exactly.
And it's just but on the whole, though, the first half of the movie, it's really good and sets up his origin story. The second half
kind of lingers a bit.
Yeah, not gonna lie, there's a bit. But to be fair, though, there are some standout moments. Even though the propaganda thing was not meant to happen, the whole Star Spangled Man with a Plan musical number was actually kind of awesome to watch.
I know, yeah.
And it kind of a reference to the Captain America #1 where he socks Hitler on the jaw. And during that montage, there's actual prints of that comic book being passed out to kids. I'm sure they weren't the actual comic books. I'm sure they were just props.
Oh, no, definitely. Yeah, that would be my
guess.
guess.
But this movie is this is for someone who likes Marvel but wants to see what the MCU was like in wartime, mainly World War II, and there are a lot of movies based on World War II, which is the most, but it's not bad. Even though there's an oversaturation of World War II style films, this one's unique because it introduces a superhero, and during that time, people needed people like Captain America to look up to know that everything will be better in due time.
Yes.
And this movie is like that. Now, despite a strong first half, it still has that weak second half, but overall, I still think it's a decent movie, and it's one of the better movies to come out of Phase 1.
Indeed.
Yeah, so rating it, me personally, I had to rate this movie a little bit lower than the other movies. At best, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. Solid is how I could describe this movie in one word.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mike, what about you?
My turn to this. Now, I have only seen this film once last year when we binged the entire MCU to prep for the movies. And let me tell you this. It was so goddamn worth it, my friends. But let me tell you, after seeing it all and knowing where Captain America's story would end, I so desperately wanted to know where his story began. And I was definitely impressed. Let me tell you this. I loved Chris Evans for so many years, watching the films of the MCU in its later and more present times, but going back to the beginning, it made me appreciate it all more, knowing where it was all leading to. Steve's very believable beginnings about wanting to fight for the freedoms of his country, regardless of his physical composure, it definitely inspired me so gosh darn much. Seeing his relationships and friendships form over only 2 hours, the amount that they were able to cover in such a very short amount of time was very impressive. The effects must have been cutting edge for 2011 to put a guy's head on top of another guy's body.
Yeah, but there are instances where you look at it and it becomes obvious, but it's rare.
I know, but it's very, very rare because you're such in awe at the production design of this movie. How I love the 1940s aesthetic. because I love the old 20th century look of America from the 40s to the 60s. Now that's my favorite era in like recent American history. Now I love the cars, I love the weapons, I love the music, I love the transitions. This movie really is so gosh darn good. And even especially, I'm not the biggest fan of Joe Johnston's movies, especially like I was not the biggest fan of Jurassic Park 3.
I don't think a lot of people were.
I was not the biggest fan of the first Jumanji either. Like,
Really?
like personally, I think that it only got better when the sequels were made decades later.
So you mean like Welcome to the Jungle and The Next Level were better?
Yes.
I could see that.
Those
I could see
movies
that.
were so
Yeah,
much better than the
but
original.
this was one of Joe Johnston's better movies.
I would definitely say so, without a single shadow of a doubt. The Chris Evans portrayal of Steve Rogers is so solid. I love the chemistry between him, Haley Atwell, Sebastian Stan, Dominic Cooper. They all worked so well off of each other. Hugo Weaving played the Red Skull as best he could. Personally, I would have probably hired an actual German actor to play the Red Skull.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
of course, as these guys, British actors imitating German soldiers, I definitely would have thought, for something that's an imitation, it's pretty dang spot on.
Hey, imitation is the highest form of flattery, so what are you going to do?
Exactly. And of course, as Chris said, the first half, definitely at least for me, the first 2 acts of the movie are very, very solid. It's only in the final 30-ish minutes or so where the film does start to thunder a bit.
Exactly. Like, usually with movies, the second act is the weakest bit, but here, it's rare that the third act is the weakest part of the movie.
Yep.
But yeah, the first two thirds of it are really solid.
Exactly. It's just like when they start to get to the whole world domination plot where, like, doesn't like the Red Skull try to, like, talk about usurping Hitler with the power of the Norse gods and stuff like that? It's like, yeah, see, this basically he just becomes another villain siphoning for power. But then again, that's always what he was. The Red Skull was always just a stand-in for the Nazis in general. And of course, I do wish that one of the biggest missteps of the early days of the MCU was throwing the Red Skull into space.
Because that's just a lot of missed potential if you do that.
Yeah, basically, I'm not sure why Joe Johnston felt the need to do that, but now the Red Skull is still out there. It's just, what is it like? What's it gonna do?
I don't know. Probably the lifeless body on another planet somewhere.
Yeah. Basically, though, I did really appreciate the majority of the movie. It is really good, despite its fumblings and flaws throughout. And it made me super uber excited for what was going to be coming in the future. Better movies and better stories. The darker days seem to be majorly behind us. So, and of course, folks, before I give you my ranking, always appreciate the symbols of the past. Even though you guys may not appreciate the past as much as many other people probably did, it's very much important to never lose sight of those that came before, those who fought for the freedoms and luxuries that we have now. Good souls died and good souls were lost so that we could build a better world, free from tyranny and destruction. So do not give in to the deceitfulness of others. Always fight for what is right, even if it's only one step at a time.
Well said.
Yes, and of course, please go buy Marvel merchandise. Support the Shields as best you can.
Oh yeah.
Every single Marvel fan should have a Shield in their house one way or another. Hell, I got a miniature version of the Shield just this past weekend.
I need a real one, seriously.
Definitely. So I would happily give Captain America: The First Avenger 2011, directed by Joe Johnston, starring Chris Evans, a C+ letter ranking.
A C+, that's not bad.
Absolutely.
Well, of course, these movies will converge into one big event, the Avengers in 2012, but that's not going to be for a little while.
No, because we need to bounce back to the X-Men universe next for the 5th of 13 movies, where it finally seemed that things were beginning to get back on track again for a film that actually came out the same year as Captain America: The First Avenger.
And thank God it's better than the last one.
Exactly, indeed. X-Men First Class from 2011, directed by Matthew Vaughn.
Yep, so that's our next movie, but we still have shows to get to, so we got to bounce back to the world of Remnant for the next second half of Ruby Volume 2 next week. Is that right?
Yep. When you guys see us next, we'll be finishing up Ruby Season 2, and of course seeing where the story goes from there, and all the stuff that it will be eventually building up to.
Yeah, but that'll be doing it for tonight. Until next time, I'm Chris.
I'm Mike.
And this has been Behind the Screens. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a good night, and take care.
So peace, everybody.